Can you hear me? Does this work? Yeah? Okay, that's great. So, thanks. It's a cozy event so far. Let's see who's online. Let's also see if we are joined by someone. It's a relatively, I wouldn't say new topic, but it's a very hot topic in a way, because this is about the big stuff, the decarbonization efforts, and this concerns industry, of course, and how this is related to the NDC 3.0 process. And I'm happy to welcome Lydia here. I'm happy to welcome Ms. Rajiv Radi. I hope I was pronouncing this properly. Hugo Salamanca from UNIDO. Ms. Fradi is representing the National Agency for Energy Conservation. Lydia is with Agora Energiewende and is representing the long word and in small letters, International Network of Energy Transition Think Tanks. And we have Till Tibbe from BMW. He's managing a good significant portfolio of the ICI, the International Climate Initiative in Berlin at BMW, the Ministry of Economy and Climate. And we have Katrin Diamwala from UNDP. And I think what we were going to do in this hour is we were going to hear from Lydia an inspiration about what this is all about, decarbonization industry. We will then also hear from Tunisia on a very good example from Ms. Fradi, and then we will have a panel discussion that then I will moderate. And without further ado, Lydia, the stage is yours. I understand. Oh, the video first. Sorry, there's a video. I forgot the video. Let's have the video first.
The new NDCs are our last chance to be on track with the aims of the Paris Agreement.
That's one part of it. But there's a second reason which is important too, which is these industries are changing. There are opportunities to do things better, to do things cheaper, and to do things in a way that'll build industry for export. And global markets now want green stuff.
Industry stands ready, is committed to decarbonize, but we have a strong call for the enabling policies.
Many NDCs don't set quantifiable targets for the industry sector.
We need what I like to call the pull and the push instruments. We need carbon pricing to push the decarbonization, but we also need a green procurement measure to pull the demand for low carbon product. And finally, we need support for R&D and innovation, including grants to support the deployment of breakthrough technologies.
It is really important that we focus on developing countries and emerging economies, because those are the countries where the investments are going to take place with regards to heavy industries within the next decade. There is a huge gap of support in those countries, and this gap concerns technical assistance as well as financial assistance.
A lot of our people are engaged in industries and all, so industry sector is one of our critical mitigation sector. Lot of other benefits are there. The firm itself gets the benefit because the waste of energy can be addressed. So they reduce their cost of production. Green employment opportunities also will be generated because of they are switching into more climate friendly production.
All emerging markets, especially, need access to the heavy industries to be able to build the kit for the future. You know, we are currently in a vast building boom, creating cities around the world. Those industries, as I said, have to be low carbon going forward to meet our climate ambitions. And they're about building industries fit for the future.
We need technology. Technology transfer or technology development opportunities and access to climate finance.
We need cheap capital. That's where the North can help. It can help with mandating development banks to provide dedicated capital, risk support, credit guarantees and so on. no one has any doubt in global investor land that the world is now going to go green. But it's very uncertain who's going to be a winner and who's going to be a loser. Can we ride the wave to prosperity, or will we be swamped by it? That's what investors are thinking. So governments can do something really good here. They can develop pipelines, they can show investors they've got investor propositions, and they can signal that they are surfing, not being swamped.
Now is a crucial moment. Now we all need to focus on the new NDCs, and those NDCs are also a great opportunity to become a really relevant instrument for your development, but also for future investment plans.
After this inspiring video, we have an inspiring input from Lydia Wojta from the ITEFF.
Thank you very much indeed. I understand I'm using this one to switch the slides. Just try. Indeed. Good morning, and thank you to UNIDO and the NDC partnership for having me at this event at COP29. My name is Lydia Wojta, and as said, I represent the Secretariat of the International Network of Energy Transition Think Tanks, which is hosted by Agora Energiewende in Berlin. And we are a global network of strategic non-profit think tanks working to scale up and speed up sustainable energy transitions. Our members work on a variety of facets of energy transitions, including industrial decarbonization. So here I would like to thank especially one of our think tank members, Agora Industry, for providing for contributing to the substance of this presentation. Coming from the big picture, the NDCs, as you know, have come a long way from 2013, where they were quite messy, and every country did what they thought that was supposed to be done, to when they came into force in 2016 for most of the countries when they were ratified, to 2018 when in Katowice we decided there need to be some order in which these NDCs are to be produced, and also in the second round around Glasgow when most of the countries submitted their NDCs. Currently, we are looking at 2025, and we're hoping that the next round is going to be simply better than the previous one. This should be aided by the transparency framework. We have the first biannual transparency reports being submitted by all parties this year, which on one hand raises the trust of the parties that other parties will do what they say and see how the implementation of these targets is being done. On the other hand, they show how immense the challenge is and how much finance is actually needed to implement all of those. And this is something that is at the heart of the discussions here in Baku. We know that these discussions are ongoing, and hopefully we will have a successful decision by the end of week 2. But we are here to discuss again the next round. And we know that what governments do is a lot, but it's definitely not enough. And we have all these actors, international actors, think tank actors, who are working to make these NDCs not only better, enhanced, more granular, but also more ambition and future ready. So here we are talking about the possibility of, for all countries or those who have strong industrial sectors, to include these components in the next round of the NDCs. And why is that important? Right. I'm afraid I switched it off. Yes. And why is that important? Because industry accounts for the 25% of direct global energy-related CO2 emissions. And after allocating electricity and heat emissions to the final sectors, industry continued to be the largest emitting sector in 2022, that in contributing to almost 40% of global fuel combustion CO2 emissions. Also in absolute terms, since 1990, the industrial emissions have grown the fastest among all sectors. And the message here is clear. If we don't curb these emissions, the achievement of the Paris Agreement goals is simply not possible. So this is why we are here. This is why we are talking how to best do that. And let me also maybe just remark that those 5 basic materials, steel, cement, chemicals, paper, and aluminium are the materials that we use to build schools, hospitals, railways. This is the basis of economic development of all countries. And these are also the same basic materials that we use to build electric vehicles, dams, wind parks. So these materials play a key role in the transition to clean global economy. And when we look at what it looks like globally, we see that emerging markets and developing economies play an immensely important role in achieving these decarbonization targets. In 2020, 80% of emissions from industrial production happened in emerging economies and developing countries. It is also in these jurisdictions that we will see the largest growth in supply and demand as these countries continue their growth and development trajectories. And if we look at the dotted lines, production is expected to grow in the coming years. And according to the net zero scenario, they should be going down significantly in these economies, if the Paris Agreement is to succeed. So from a climate perspective, the key question here is how can we work together? How can we collaborate to ensure that growth and development that we want to have happens on the basis of these clean materials? And the time to answer this question is very much narrowing, and as the work of my colleagues from Agora shows, we are now at a crucial time for industrial decarbonization. When a new reinvestment cycle starts, let's say next year, it will determine the fate of industrial emissions for the next decades. And again, I'm coming back to this over and over again, but if we don't do it now, if we don't plan for it, we will not achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. And what is also important to know that if this new cycle invests in conventional technologies, we will be in the next decades left with either stranded assets or, what is even worse, these technologies will continue to be used in the next decade, locking in emissions. And again, this will kill most of the efforts that we need to provide in the next decades. We have 30 years, not even that. So we have to be mindful of how long the reinvestment cycles are and what they mean for the climate targets. So finally, as you probably know and heard many times, I would still like to remind you that in this specific field, none of us is looking for silver bullets. There are simply none. There are multiple sectors that require multiple solutions to be used altogether. And, but broadly speaking, you can see there are those 3 areas in which the solutions can be used. So we have closing the carbon cycle, direct use of and indirect use of electricity, as well as resource and energy efficiency. And many of these solutions are already tried and tested, and they don't require that much innovation. We have electrification of heat, we have recycling technologies, and material efficiency solutions that are already applied today, and they just need to be rolled out at scale. And with other solutions such as CCS and hydrogen-based steel making, we are still in the beginning of the road. We are aware they will create new value chains and require financing solutions and collaborations that will need policies and regulation. So here we as think tanks, we commit ourselves to work on delivering with international actors to make this happen in time and a just, equitable manner. And last but not least, I wanted to say that now that I have put forward the talk about the tasks ahead, this cannot be the end. This is the beginning. This is just one side of the equation stating what the problem is. What is more important is that we look at the solutions, and the solutions are developed by UNIDO, by many other partners, to actually plan for tools and kit to actually help the countries deliver on this industrial component of the NDCs. We have this cycle now, 2025. The next one comes in 2030, but the work has been happening so far and will happen after. And we are here to support you. And I'm very happy to hear from the presenters what is it that we can help with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think we started with a political kind of framing. We have now the science, and now, Madame, s'il vous plaît, we would now hear from you what concretely Tunisia did in looking into decarbonization of its industry.
Good morning. I'm Raja Fradi from National Agency for Energy Conservation. I will present key barrier and enabler for incorporating industry-specific target in NDC, Tunisian NDC. I think I will... OK. Donc, je ne vois pas l'écran ici. Je peux avoir mon ordinateur? Je peux avoir mon ordinateur. Je vais mettre my laptop. Excuse me. Va s'ouvrir. Non, ça marche pas. J'ai essayé de le charger tout de suite tout à l'heure. Ok. D'accord. Ok. Ok. Oh, yes. C'est bon, c'est bon. C'est bon. Ok. Merci. Alors. Donc, the Paris Agreement. Ok. C'est un piège. Hein? Donc, Tunisia, it commits all party to transition. And the Paris Agreement adopted at COP29 aims to accelerate global effort to combat climate change. And this ambition plan includes an initiative to strengthen the resilience to climate change and adopt a sustainable and inclusive development model. In our Tunisia NDC, Tunisia contribution to mitigation is materialized by a 45% decrease in its carbon intensity in 2030 compared to 2010. This effort became from unconditional contribution and to reduce carbonation intensity of 27% in 2030 compared to that reference year's 2010. And the conditional contribution allows for an additional 18% reduction in carbon intensity in 2030 compared to 2010. The energy sector contribute for 72% of the GHG emission reduction In the update low carbon scenario, the following figure present the respective GHG emission trajectory of the baseline, the unconditional national carbon effort, and the update NDC low carbon scenario. The best scenario is the third, it's conditional and conditional effort emission trajectory is demonstrate a decrease from 34.9 million ton CO2 to 31 million ton. And the big part of this emission come from energy sector, who represent 72%. And we have other sectors like process, flow, and waste. Donc, je pense, our country, the industry is the most part of energy emission. For Tunisia, it's about 35%. And now the financing need for NDC for Tunisia NDC is especially for mitigation. We need 40.4 billion US dollar to cover the investment need of the low carbon pathway over the period 2021 and 2030. It's become from for the unconditional objective and the conditional objective, and it is reparted for energy efficiency and renewable energy. But also we have, I will speak about the barrier to include an industry-specific target in NDC. We have dependence on high carbon industry, technical and infrastructure limitation, financial constraint, and international competitiveness, and the social and political resistance. In this way, l'ANME, for access to international, you need to access to international finance, renewable energy, opportunity, and strategic partnership. You have I identified only four needs, the FAR, and ici, the ANAME role in supporting Tunisia's commitment to scaling up the share of renewable energy. In its mix energy, we have 5 principal roles, like energy efficiency and decarbonization, setting energy saving target for industry, and helping business implement energy, like audit and supporting, financial supporting to the industry. And we have reading NDC review process and industry target integration. The agency work closely with industrial actor to set sector target, specific emission reduction target, implement cleaner technology, and support the transition to more sustainable practice. And we have coordinate the ANME have a role to coordinate with international climate initiative like GCF and UNCCC. Also, the last one is promoting public awareness and capacity building. Last, I will just recent achievement that l'ANME has is the carbonation. The industry is now the top priority of the both economic and the environmental reason. And l'ANME is a central player in integrate the decarbonization goal into international economic planning. The agency is responsible for assessing sectoral performance in energy efficiency and renewable energy adoption and other decarbonization measures. We have support to renewable energy project with the preparation a portfolio of a big project. We have recently established of a Decarbo Act platform. This can help industry to calculate her empreinte carbone. Okay. And in September, we organized the first Mediterranean Forum of Decarbonization in Tunisia with international support. That's all for Tunisia. You have a big portfolio for decarbonization industry, and we work to assist industry sector and the other sector in Tunisia. Thank you for your attention. Je m'excuse parce que j'ai essayé de parler en anglais, mais je préfère le français. Merci.
Wonderful. I think now we started politically, we went to science, now we have a concrete example, and I think oh, okay. Unlike in the yeah, I know. That's very good. Now you confused me. No, I think what we heard was a very concrete example, and I think what I remember from back then when I still was with the NDC Partnership Support Unit country engagement work, that we worked a lot with your colleagues there. You, as UNDP, with the government of Tunisia and our colleagues there, they are now part of our steering committee. So really a champion in the field, and that's great, I think. And I would like to therefore ask you, you know, you've been very proactive in collaborating with the regional partners. You said that as well. You have probably, you know, engaging in the Union for the Mediterranean and other regional engagements. How has this regional cooperation and this peer-to-peer exchange influenced your approach to industrial carbonization, and what have you observed so far? How does it work with you? You can answer in French if you want, but then I think we need those who do not speak French get earphones. Sorry, Jorge. Okay. Yes, how the regional les engagements régionaux. Qu'est-ce que vous prenez de cet engagement et qu'est-ce que sont les recommandations pour
En fait, pour la Tunisie, nous avons préparé tout un plan d'action pour la décarbonation de l'industrie. Et c'est à travers que ce soit des projets financés par des bailleurs de fonds qui sont là, qui sont mis en place en Tunisie actuellement, ils sont en cours de mise en place. Et aussi, on a d'autres programmes nationaux. Nous avons le fonds de transition énergétique. C'est un fonds qui supporte que ce soit l'industrie ou tous les secteurs de maîtrise de l'énergie en Tunisie. Mais on supporte tout ce qui est audit énergétique, la cogénération, les projets de consultation préalable et surtout les projets d'énergie renouvelable. Et maintenant, nous sommes en train, et c'est ce que j'ai dit, nous avons préparé tout un portefeuille de projets capitalistiques qui nous aident à atteindre nos objectifs, les objectifs de la décarbonation, les objectifs de notre CDN. Et vraiment, ce sont des projets d'envergure et qui ont un impact environnemental et social important. Donc, c'est ça notre stratégie de la Tunisie. passer à la question.
Alors, je vais traduire.
Ah, ok.
So Tunisia has been, the Energy Mitigation Agency of Tunisia has been developing a portfolio of projects from the beginning to the end to the request for capital. So it's there, it's ready, and it's for the moment it's more national, right? It's not c'est pas régional, it is national, but it's creating the portfolio, the pipeline of projects, and they've been working on that from the beginning, evaluating through energy audits, through support, through financial estimations, etc., so that it's maybe on the shelf for multilateral development banks and international funds to provide support and to unlock maybe or to create the spark to reach the NDC. So the NDCs are linked to a portfolio of projects that are directed to achieving those targets.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think we do 2 rounds of questions, and we can go for another round and drill a little bit deeper on the collaboration, the networks that you're using. Hugo, could you elaborate a bit on the key elements of UNIDO's support to countries in the NDC revision process and how these have helped aligning national industry targets with global decarbonization goals?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for the question. So through this COP, what we are trying to promote is the new support package that UNIDO has been developing to support countries integrate industry targets in their new NDCs. So this support package, if I can ask my colleagues to maybe click on the next slide, if it works, yeah, perfectly, is free for download. So it's a support that is divided into three main directions, three main support. So the first one is to provide a guide, which is a step-by-step support on how to go about the process. It's based on examples from around the world, on best practices, on case studies. So it's academic or maybe more theoretical, but it's based on practical examples and on-the-ground experience. That's the first maybe support. And then it's supported by a modeling tool based on the Mythica modeling that will allow countries to estimate GHG reduction emissions from the mitigation measures. So complementing maybe the theory of the guidebook, we will have this modeling tool to support countries go and put the figures behind each of the mitigations. And finally, we will be providing support for countries that maybe don't have the expertise as the animal to create these technical maybe projects so that we go from the policies that we need to the projects that we need to create. So this is the three maybe dimensions of the support of UNIDO that we are now echoing through COP that we launched yesterday, that we'll be also highlighting in next events around the week. So if you want to follow us, please do.
We are here at the partnership pavilion, and I think we need to probably explain a little bit how all of this is connected. You know, the country level with the funding and so on and so forth. I think I'm looking at Catherine, who is working for UNDP and the Climate Promise, which is one of the major delivery partners around NDC updates, but also implementation. Catherine, can you give us a little bit of a context, what you do also as Climate Promise, and how this can work not only for, of course, Tunisia, but lead the way for other countries as well?
Thank you. Yes, of course, thank you. And thanks for having me. I'm Catherine Jamvala. I'm with UNDP. I work on NDC enhancement and implementation. So you probably have heard, or if you haven't, let me tell you, like since June, we've been going around and talking about the UN system mobilizing for helping countries do their NDC 3.0. In this mobilization, we are looking at the framing around 3 pillars. We're looking at ambition raising, which is the core right now of our offer. We're looking at acceleration, and we're looking at inclusivity. So those are the framing of our support to country. So on the ambition raising, which is really helping countries on the NDC 3.0, UNDP is working with many agencies and other non-UN agencies. We have already helped a few countries do a stock take of their NDCs. This has started since June. They're looking at the level of implementation of their NDC to allow them to figure out how ambitious they can get into their next NDC. We are also supporting the whole of society approach to developing an NDC, and we are also supporting on costing the NDC. But of course, the heart of the NDC is about looking at your targets, whether you're looking at your baseline, your projections on any different sectors. So all the sectors, since we are all required now to do an economy-wide NDC, so we're supporting all the sectors, we're supporting adaptation, we're supporting just transition. So any of those elements that need to make an NDC more ambitious. And this is really where this part is coming. So industry decarbonization becomes now an add-on to the full package that we can offer to country. So if a country submits a request to the matchmaking platform or the NDC Partnership Global Call, we can then come in with the funding that Germany has generously provided to us and help the country have a full package of activities that they need to do for their NDC. So this is, again, I'm really happy that we're working with UNIDO on this, and I think I will reach out to you as well. We would love to have all the expertise, because I think for UNDP, we've worked on energy, but not specifically on industry, but we do have the reach. We are everywhere. And I think being able to give the countries that full package is really what this is allowing us to do. So I think that's how it comes all together. I hope that explained it well.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Katrin. And finally, and last not least, to Till. Germany has been a leader in industrial carbonization itself, but also supports a lot of the work. And you have been engaged in the Climate Club and lead the Climate Club, which is about really decarbonization of industry. What policies and incentives have, from your point of view, proven to be most effective in promoting industry carbonization that other countries could adapt, and how do you try to share this experience?
Yeah, but first of all, maybe let's start with the Climate Club that we, together with G7, initiated last year, and where we did put the focus on industry decarbonization. I think something that is, as you mentioned also in the beginning, is relatively new in the conversation. Do you get that's better? Which is relatively new in the conversation in the international sphere. And where we then started in the third pillar of the Climate Club to discuss how we can actually bring in the developing and emerging countries. First of all, to have them at the table, to discuss standards, to actually be in a room with the other countries to discuss industry decarbonization, at which measures are nationally but also internationally needed. And I think that's probably the first point to your question. Provide a space, give the opportunity to those countries that are normally not at the table for that discussion. And that is something that we aim to provide at the Climate Club. Have conversations about green standards in the industry sector, but also discuss carbon leakage regulations and so on. In the process of the last year, then we realized also that the support for developing and emerging economies in that specific sector is partially there, but not really. And we started to think how we actually can build up the environment. We have been a long partner for the NDC partnership. Now the NDC update, or the new NDCs, are coming up next year, and we know how to do that. We know that the system is there. We as donors just somehow need to provide the funding, and then we have the NDC partnership, UNDP Climate Promise, and all the different actors who can then act and support the countries. For industry decarbonization, that just wasn't the case. And we are now currently providing the funding also with other actors, for example, with the UK for the UNIDO Net Zero Partnership, to actually build that environment, that support environment, to then develop those policies that are in the end really helping the countries to decarbonize. I think what we see is that, of course, the linkage between the energy sector and the industry sector is really strong. So we also, if we develop industry-specific targets for the industry sector, also need, of course, to combine it with energy and have that in mind. But for us, let's say as Germany, is the first point to provide the funding, and the second to provide that space on actually discuss which policies are working in different sectors, because I wouldn't be in the position to tell you we have those 3 policies and they work in every country. I think it's not that easy, and it's also with industry so much connected with the economic development that you always have to be somehow country specific to answer that question.
And I think, if I may add that, I mean, there's not only that aspect of UNIDO now with the decarbonization of industry. There's also, the measurement, the MRV ATF dimension through ICAT that is supported through a multi-donor initiative. There's the NAMA, formerly known NAMA facility, now Mitigation Action Facility. Hi, Rosa from the Mitigation Action Facility.
Sorry for not mentioning.
That is also there then to develop projects. I think also in the industry sector. So there is a whole package there that comes together. And if one works on this in this stuff like for quite some time and gets an overview, if you don't have an overview, if you want to start with that. That's the idea a bit of the partnership of UNDP. Come and engage with us, then we can try and help you guiding this. Also with the various tools that we are having, including yours that I think is very important.
Yeah, exactly. It's that package. I just didn't want to end up being the donor and listing all the cool projects that we have, because I think that's most of the time not really interesting. But yeah, that's true, and that is also why we have created somehow the link between the NDC partnership on the one side, but then also the global matchmaking platform that is somehow having the same approach as the NDC partnership, but very much focusing on the industry sector, as we thought it would make a lot of sense to have a coordinating platform in that industry-specific sector, where very new actors are coming in, where the needs of the countries are most of the time different, and where also the private sector needs to be really much involved.
And with this, I think it's good to have probably a word from you, also a bit of a final word, because before we open up for some questions, I guess. My question to you would also be like, okay, now we have been saying what is around and how great we are and so forth, but where do you see the challenges, and where do you think, of course you have your national efforts, you have an unconditional target, you have a conditional target, but where especially can we be as the international community, Germany, donors, multilaterals, can get better, so that you are in your work moving ahead and be more efficient?
La dernière partie, oui.
La question, c'est maintenant pour passer à la pratique. Vous apporter le plus d'impact dans votre stratégie.
Oui. En fait, comme j'ai le mentionné dans ma présentation, et la chose la plus importante maintenant pour la Tunisie, c'est d'avoir les financements des projets. Donc tout ce qui est technique et tout ce qui est calcul des émissions, ou bien tout ce qui est technique, là où nous avons les capacités nationales pour atteindre ces objectifs. Il nous manque seulement le financement des projets et leur mise en place seulement. Donc la Tunisie, ce qui nécessite pour nous, c'est nous avons tout ce qui est même les supports ou les applications de mesurage et de vérification. Par exemple, nous avons ça pour le secteur des ciments et pour d'autres secteurs. Et nous avons atteint pratiquement pratiquement nos objectifs. On travaille sur tout ce qui est assistance technique, que ce soit les experts ou tunisiens, on peut faire même appel à des experts internationaux dans quelques activités. Là, tout ce qui est assistance technique, il n'y a pas un grand problème, mais c'est le financement des projets.
So I'll just translate maybe. So yeah, so for Tunisia, from Tunisia's point of view, they have the technical capacity. They have built the project. So now really where international assistance or partnership would be required to carry out the targets and to achieve Tunisia's NDCs would be to provide finance. So it's about now maybe launching this issue that's been trailed along, I think, COP, which is the fees. So the final investment decision has to be made, and they're trying to really go about the projects. And they also have measurement and verification processes. They have the experts on the ground that are able to carry out the projects. And if needed, they also have regional collaborations or international collaborations with external expertise. But on the ground, it's covered. Now it's really about the finance.
And I think that's what we hear a lot, actually, and obviously, you know, a big part of international finance reform with the MDBs and so forth is targeting this, but also targeting, of course, the possibility to leverage private sector. That's private sector support through private sector banks, for instance. So I think with that, maybe we have a couple of questions from the audience. Oh la la. Okay, very good. let me start with you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, and thank you very much. My name is Susana. I work for Tony Blair Institute as the embedded advisor at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in Mozambique. As you may know, Mozambique launched internationally its energy transition strategy last year at COP by its president, and now we are in the implementation phase. Mozambique, I think, is one step before Tunisia, because the problem or the challenge now is not decarbonize an industry, but develop an industry under decarbonization goals, right? So it's a challenge that Mozambique has in front, and it's about financing, but first it's about having a plan, right? We have to translate the ambition and the willingness into a very detailed plan in order to be able to access to finance. So my question here is, where would you start from? Would you focus in the policy now? Because there is also an enabling environment which is needed for attracting these industries. Would you focus on more in a plan focusing on pre-feasibility studies and to identify which are the strategic sectors or that are the preferred ones for the industries? And the next question is, would your organizations support Mozambique on this? Because the first milestone that Mozambique should comply with, well, a part of the NDCs, of course, is within its strategy, is having a green industrial park running by 2030 is like the first milestone. So there is a lot to do. Thank you.
Is that for me? The short answer is yes. And this is a discussion that we had. No, yes, for what you say, we will support a country like Mozambique. UNDP, we work mostly with developing countries, and we will have a lot of countries in that same situation. And the discussion we had with Germany, with UNIDO, is we have to we have to have like a package of support for the countries to meet them where they are. If Mozambique needs to do a policy, maybe do a landscape analysis of where they are, do a strategy of where they want to be, that whole thing can be supported. And I think it's really good to support it at an early stage so that when they start actually developing their industry, they have the standard already set, the policies, the regulation, all is set so that they are not locking in those emissions and going into a process that's going to lock in those emissions for a long time. So yes, absolutely. Thanks.
So maybe just to also respond. So the program that I belong to, it's called Net Zero Partnership for Industry Decarbonization. But it responds to this kind of a request that you have just mentioned. We go from an assessment of what is critical in the country. So we get requests from countries. We assess what would be the key step. So is it policies? Is it pipeline development? Is it capacity building? So we have this program that is built on these three main pillars. Focusing on what policies can achieve, national goals, how to develop the pipeline of projects. So once you have the policies, of course, then you want to move to the pipeline of projects. So we develop that as well, so as to make them bankable and maybe to reach the level of countries such as Tunisia. And then finally, we promote, international partnerships and best practice sharing. So we have this under the Climate Club. We have the global matchmaking platform that I'm really happy to get in touch with you, so we can carry out and engage you in such a process.
And so that you know that you can use a one phone number approach, you can always come to the NDC Partnership Support Unit, to the facilitator on the ground, and then we will connect you to the various colleagues. And there's a lot of work with Mozambique going on. I have to put a bit like speed into the system, but
yes,
go for it.
I will speak quickly. Maybe just one addition. I think that request at the global matchmaking platform is really important, because then you somehow kickstart a process where UNIDO and other organizations can look into it, what the request is, and then also what the particular needs are. And I think that is really important to then actually in the end receive the support that you, or that Mozambique in that case, actually needs, and then can be the supply of the mechanisms can be way more efficient than if exactly.
Great. Who was next? I think you had a.
Thank you very much. Amr Nader. I'm CEO and co-founder of A-Cube & Co. We are a management and technical consultant in cement industry. We operate in 30 countries. We are currently working on cement industry with around 35 million tons of CO2 that we handle. And we do also advocacy and advisory for countries. So we are working on 3 country level roadmaps for cement industry. And we are a continuous COP since Glasgow, and we were part of the stock take of last year. Club was part of the reaction to the failure on the stock take that we already have seen. So I will, if you don't mind, address a bit of the elephant in the room. So the NDC 3 was supposed to cover the problems of the earlier NDCs, bring industries on track to achieve the 1.5 degree on 2030. Specifically, cement and steel was taken on a separate breakthrough track to make this acceleration happen, because they are the elephant on the room on emission. Yeah, okay. My apology, but what I've seen, and I've been just copying from UNIDO, but saying that we are helping countries from a baseline approach. None of the emerging countries, none, zero, has a baseline for cement, nor for steel. So numbers are not there. 2, none of the cement and the steel companies in these countries have the urge to push for a decarbonization projects unless it starts with a business case. And this is not the case with most of the NDCs. I was just reviewing who have submitted, and I've seen that only UAE, which is I worked on, Thailand, Australia, and Norway, and Singapore has submitted the new NDCs. I've worked on the UAE one, and they have moved from 5% average to the country to 16% average on the country. I'm talking about industrial cement. This is in line with the SBTI, so it's doable. When and only when technical support is being done on the right place. I'm very sorry, but the way the matchmaking is being designed, I've just had the discussion over there, will not matchmake if you do the same things, do not expect different results. If you rely on the same associations, the same acronyms that are not on ground, that are not in the market to deliver the solutions that will fix the problems that was not fixed for the past 10 years, I don't know. So that was my point, and I hope I did not offense, but it's really for the sake of getting things better. Thank you.
No, I think we all agree that the focus on country and the concrete work is extremely important. Our wonderful input giver, Lydia, please.
No, I think the points are really valid, of course, and we all see that as the different actors that we are. What I just wanted to say is, from our point where we were last year, we wanted to get something going and get something somehow on the street to act on industry decarbonization, because we have seen, and you also mentioned that there is this window of opportunity now. Either we use it or it's gone, you know? And I think we managed to reach a lot within that year, building up a platform and doing all that stuff that I described. We all know that that is not sufficient. And we will definitely look into that in the, I would say, next 1 or 2 months, how we can further develop, how we can go beyond that matchmaking, which can be anything or nothing. But we all see that we need to do more, that we need to get the private sector in, and not only in the end. We can't be the institutions who develop a bankable project and then stand there and see, why don't you finance anything? I think, at least from my perspective, we need to have them on board earlier and work with project developers that have private interests, that cooperate with the different organizations, with the different companies in the country. So I think we now maybe did the first 30% of what we want to do, and the next 70% will be a lot more than just matchmaking and just technical assistance.
Right. My question goes actually to Hugo. You mentioned 3 steps, including modeling, and you said that countries can put their data in, and that immediately triggered my question: how difficult is for the countries to get the right data for you so you can actually help them to model the industrial decarbonization? What are the main issues with this data? Which data is missing? How many countries have issues with that?
On the data, on collecting the data. So, well, what the request that we have, the discussions until now is a bit responding to also what you have mentioned, is that the baselines are something that usually are very difficult to put together. So we've been working with, because we're focusing, it's true, on cement and steel, which are maybe the first ones to start with in most emerging economies. So what we are working with is actually the local institutions, but through the international organizations such as GCCA. And okay. So we have to get in touch, and we'll just scold them. But yeah, this is the approach that we have been using. It's true. So to go through the GCCA, and then they will, get in touch with the local industrial associations. There is a lot of capacity building. I know that, again, the international institutions provide capacity building on data. So I know the IEA has programs on the ground to provide kind of the governments on how to approach data collection, verification, and establishment through best practices. But it's true that it's the first step to anything. It's setting the baseline and to be able to set the target. And if you don't have the right numbers, I guess you cannot the right targets. But yes, it's a big issue, especially in terms of capacity building and resources to collect and store. So we're trying to give it kind of a digital approach, so that it's something that it's stored and not something that you have to go like with an Excel sheet, etc., and paper, which is sometimes what we have seen. But yeah, so we're trying to get a kind of a structure approach based on international best practices, so that we have harmonization and we're all speaking the same language, which is also kind of a key challenge for high-emitting sectors such as steel and cement, having the same standards, the same maybe methodology for GHG calculation. So yeah, I'm not saying it's easy. We're trying. We're trying.
Wonderful. I would be keen on actually looking at that video again and then the benchmark basically what the baseline was when we started and now we are closing. I want to especially thank you for the concrete example. We had Nigeria as well, but the lady from Nigeria had to go to another commitment on short notice. Thanks Till, thanks Katrin, and thanks Hugo and UNIDO for having this and for your inspiration. Thanks a lot, and let's keep in touch and we try our best to bring the best people together. Join us.